Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. I am just recording these all right in a row, and I'm going to be putting them together later. I am running on empty almost. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for tuning in to ChannelBK. My name is Brian. I hope you liked the goofy last video. It was so funny. This is a different list that I'm doing. Once again, this is sort of going to be, it's not going to be like a top, I guess. Like it could be like 65 to 51. But it is my top 15 album of the year runner-ups. So I felt like this would be something fun to do. I've always thought about doing it. And when I started building the list this year, it was always like coming to my mind, like, why haven't I done this before ever with a list? But I feel like this year was actually something where I felt like it was necessary to have this. And I'm going to tell you right now, these ones fought around so much. So 65, I guess in a way I'll still say 65 through 51, but you guys kind of know it's just, this is the least, and then we'll get closer to what would have made it onto the list. So we start with Cannot Be Whatsoever, Novo Amor. I'm a big fan of Novo Amor. I was actually really excited when he just started putting out new songs, and I was like, holy crap, I forgot he hasn't put out an album or like any new music in a little bit. I loved his debut, was in my top 10. Clearly, this is the first on this video. I definitely feel like there were kind of some places he went that Novo Amor, like the more softer kind of stuff, he kills it. I like it. Some of the experimentation didn't work as well for me as others. There were definitely some songs on here that I found to be very bland, but I do think what he shines with on here is actually pretty dope. And there are some certain experimental things he did on here. I don't like saying experimental for certain things because it's not that experimental, but different. Going out of his comfort zone that he does on here that I actually thought were kind of interesting. But I do think it was still a solid follow-up from his last album. Not a sophomore slump, thankfully. 64, next album. An album I never would have saw on a list of mine. Folklore, Taylor Swift. I like this more than her newest Evermore. By the time we're recording this, I do think it's okay. I do think that felt, in my opinion, kind of one note. I know people are going to go crazy at me, but in my opinion, it felt a little bit more diverse on this album. I think she went to different areas. I think the songs were more interesting to me. I do think the songs I liked on here were a lot stronger than on Evermore. I do think it was interesting to have sort of herself on here besides the one incredible Bon Iver feature. But I do think her switching up styles like this was crazy. And it, honestly, for the most part, it worked. It was a very solid album. And I still go back to some of the songs on it. Very good. 63, next album. Ugly is Beautiful, Oliver Tree. This is just sort of a kind of weird pop hip-hop album, and I think it definitely falters from some ideas not being fully explored. I think some ideas are fully explored, and I do think it has a kind of fun vibe to it and good energy. I think him as a performer is, to be honest, pretty passionate. Like, I actually feel like he might not be like the greatest vocalist ever, but he brings a lot of power and passion to his vocals, and I think they actually sound really good. But definitely a solid album. 62, another great singer. The first solo debut for Hayley Williams of Paramore. Petals for Armor. This is an album that the more I thought about it, the less I liked it. I do think there's a lot of boring stuff. It's very clear that there's a lot of like Radiohead influence on here, like earlier Radiohead influence. You can also see some of like After Laughter stuff coming off of this, like Dead Horse. Dead Horse feels like a more stripped back song that could have made it on After Laughter. But, I mean, it is interesting to see her kind of wanting to go off and do, like, her own solo thing away from Paramore. I think it was worthy. I don't think it was perfect, but it definitely was really good. I guess. No, I'll say good. I don't want to say, like, weird hypocritical stuff. Number 61, next album. You guys know what the acronym is. It's the new Bad Bunny album, YHL QMD LG. I'm not going to say what it means in Spanish. All I know is I was interested in listening to this because I heard a lot of the hype about it. And I very much liked it. Again, it's been kind of that fun journey the past couple years. I've been sort of back on doing music videos and delving into different music, and Bad Bunny's someone that I've known of, and it's always just been that whole going in and listening to him. And I actually thought this was kind of solid. Like, it really did remind me of Rosalia, where it felt different and he was doing very different things. And at least from what I could tell, like, I could listen to it not knowing a lot about this kind of music and being like, oh, this sounds very interesting and different. So, nice album. Likewise is at number 60, the next album, which, again, going back to Hayley Williams, is the solo debut of Francis Quinlan, who from Hop Along. And again, it's one of those weird, they lose a lot of the luster. I think it's a little bit more stripped back, clearly for certain songs and whatnot. I do think there are kind of some tiring moments on the album. There are some kind of boring-ish moments, uninspired moments, but I think overall, as a solo debut, once again, it's finding the footing, not wanting to be under the Hop Along banner. I do think it was a solid release. I don't think it was necessarily spectacular, but I do think it was solid. Number 59, next album, my beautiful boy Sufjan, the Ascension, him blooping and bleeping. This is a very challenging album because I'm a indie singer-songwriter Sufjan guy. But when he experiments, I think for the most part, he's able to pull off what he wants to do. And in my opinion, I think for this sound, he's done before on like Age of Odds. I think it's a lot better on here. This is kind of his attempt of kind of an avant-garde art pop record. And for the most part, I think it succeeds. I do think there are a couple moments where he could have, I don't know. I just feel like we know Sufjan as being kind of a long album guy. I do think there could have been a few songs cut, but it is one of his most blunt records. And the songwriting on here, again, is for him clearly writing a pop record. It honestly kind of is not that bad. It's pretty catchy. 58, next album, After Hours, The Weeknd. 1, yes, he did get snubbed. 2, because why? I think this is his best work. Now, I have not heard parts of the old trilogy in so long, so I can't speak on those. But in terms of albums, I hated his first record. I don't know anything about it. Second record had all the good songs and singles. Rest of it was meh. Starboy, again, was indifferent. And then I didn't listen to the EP that came out after. But this album, even though it's not perfect, he kind of delves into that. I think him being in Uncut Gems did this. He was with the Safdie brothers, and he fucking hanging out with 10 Tricks Point Never, and he's like, I want to do this. And it works. I like this record a lot. I think the songwriting is very sharp. I think the style choices sonically fits very well, and I do feel like a lot of that kind of grimy vibe that he was sort of pulling off, like, the normal Weeknd grimy vibes, are pulled off actually very, very well on this album. And I definitely think that it just, again, it kind of enhances what he's doing song-wise, like lyrically, and also just his vocals are always on top, and I think it's great, and I'm actually excited to see his halftime show. 57, next album, What's Your Pleasure, Jessie, Ware. I was kind of nervous going into this record because everyone seemed to love it. Clearly I don't, but I do think in terms of songwriting and the disco flair to it, I actually like this record a lot. This was one of my first times dabbling in Jessie Ware stuff, and I definitely enjoyed it. I think her personality is infectious, again, kind of with the music on here as well. And I definitely feel like this was something that I'm glad I listened to, because, again, a lot of the times there's certain albums that when either it's a length thing or a style thing, I don't know how I'm going to feel, and I do feel bad that I'm not on that train as everyone else. However, I do feel like I can understand why people love it so much, but it's still it's a runner-up. I still like it. Number 56, next album, It Is What It Is by Thundercat. Again, Thundercat's just one of those people where he kind of dips. I loved a lot of the singles leading up to this. I think full project as a whole, I do think it was still solid. I do think it was better than at least his last album, Drunk. I think Drunk was a lot more of half-to-bake ideas every once in a while. I think this album was a little bit more fleshed out. I do think it flowed really good, and I do think this had some of his better songs like Black Qualls, or, you know, I guess, yeah, Qualls. I swear to God, if I didn't say that right and one of you smokes me in the comments, I'm, whatever. But then Dragon Ball Durag's another great example, too, as well. And the features on here are great additions. And again, Thundercat just, he either delivers or it's kind of half-baked. And I think this was definitely an album where he delivered. Artist that definitely delivered is at 55, the next album, Detroit 2, Big Sean. I give this man props because I thoroughly enjoyed this album. It's not perfect. I think it's a little too long. But I think it is his best work, and I am officially on board for what he does next. Because Lucky Me, like, the intro is hard, but Lucky Me came on, and just the production and just the way he was on it, he's more personable. He's rapping better. He doesn't have that annoying inflection in his voice. He's really, and I've always wanted to like the guy because of what he does here in the city and back here in Michigan and for Detroit. But this album was definitely something where I'm like, fuck, finally. I cannot feel weird. Because everything up until this point, I've been like, oh, God. Ugh. But this album is the shit. Very nice. 54, Color Theory, or as next album, Soccer Mommy. Better production than her debut. I think the songwriting on here, again, is really good. And it's just one of those things where she's not really doing anything creative. It's like a Snail Mail or Beach Bunny or those kind of artists. And it's not anything particularly like brand new, but I still think it's good for what she does. And again, I do think it's a big improvement from her debut, which I did like quite a bit. Number 53, Everything is Beautiful, one of the two albums that Princess Nokia put out this year. And the reason why I like this record is this was the more kind of instrumentation album. The Everything is Ugly, right? Everything is Ugly. I believe so. Was more kind of like a hip hop style album. I wasn't as into that album as this one. I think Gemini is one of my favorite songs on here. I just like the organic instrumentation that's laced on here, and I love the way she flows on it. It's just, I do think they're both solid projects. This one definitely got me more. 52, My Agenda from the lovely Dorian Electra. They have always been on my radar. I know they've been on the 100 Gex remix album. They are sort of in that hyperpop scene, and I wanted to give them a shot. And I can see where they're coming from. They're very bold, they're very brash, but they also make very creative music. Songwriting and topic-wise is very interesting and very, stuff that's up my alley, and it's exciting for me to go back to their debut because I heard that was fantastic as well. So I am very excited. And finally, at 51, the final album on this list, As Long As You Are by Future Islands. Probably my favorite Future Islands album. I think it's one of their most... I haven't really necessarily listened to everything they've done, but in terms of what I've listened to, this is their most complete album. Again, it's not perfect, but it flows the best. Most of the songs on here, I think, are well put together. There's not really a lot of falling through with certain songs and certain tracks here and there, but I just think that this is a very solid album with some of their more experimental and different tracks, and also some stuff that you kind of know from them. That sort of, that synthy pop sad boy music, and Sam's great lyrics and his vocal delivery. But yeah, guys, I know it's sad that these didn't make it to my top 50, but they're still albums I wanted to talk about. So do you guys like any of these albums? Do you agree with me? Do they not deserve to be in the top 50? Are you mad at me because some of them should have been? Leave that all in the comments below. If you please subscribe, because we've done a bunch of list videos already. We still have a few more to go. And then we have, the normal classics week. It's going to be crazy. I hope if you guys are new, you stick around because we have a lot of other great stuff to do. But other than that, thank you guys so much for watching. And thank you so freaking much for tuning in to ChannelBK. Peace out, guys.